My name's Rob Garbett, and this is the Narrating Landscapes Writing Place talk, I guess. Can't think of another word. And I've taken the step, I guess, to come outside and record this beside some of the waterways at Southern Cross University in Lismore, and it just seems sort of appropriate to do this. So I hope that the noise isn't too distracting. It's just been raining. There's a lot of flowing water going past. I hope I'm not going to get bitten by mosquitoes, but because we're talking about narrating landscapes and writing place, I wanted to be in it, because this is where a lot of my life in my early years, when I was in primary school especially, where a lot of my time was spent, and I'll get into that later on. I was interested in exploring some of the themes today through thinking about landscape and us, or our story together. And when I say together, I guess I'm talking about the story of landscape and our story as well, our identity. I came up with a few points around this about how we see landscape, but then I guess the we or the us is also something to be thought about here, because it's not seen by everybody in the same way. So I thought, well, maybe the passive voice works well here as well, how landscape is seen, not just how we see it, but there's a range of ways of seeing landscape. And we learn to see landscape, I guess, through how we frame things. We're used to that idea of landscape painting and the thing within the frame, and the idea of the beautiful landscape. And in that act of framing, we very much make landscape. We construct it. We represent it in particular ways, and different people represent landscape in different ways. And so in that way we're sort of writing place. It's a way of writing place just through that very representation of how we see landscape before we've even put words on the page. There's the way that it's landscape has imbued us with certain sensibilities. So having grown up in this area, in the northern rivers of New South Wales, I have certain ways of seeing landscape. I have a relationship to green that perhaps if I grew up out west I probably wouldn't have. And I also have a relationship to brown because of that, and I see brown in a certain way. And not only that, but in a place like the northern rivers of New South Wales, where I'm talking to you from, but I'm sure where you're listening to this as well, the landscape is very much made. It's been fashioned. Colonisation of Australia has fashioned the landscape, and we also know that the landscape of Australia that the colonists first saw, the indigenous landscape, and what we understand by the indigenous landscape itself, was made. So we make landscape, and it sort of makes us as well, because of course this is where we live. It provides our climate, it provides our food, it provides our vistas, it provides so much for us, and it shapes us, I think. It provides sound as well. And so how we experience and how landscape is experienced is also fashioned and part of our writing of place. So I guess I'm thinking of writing in quite extended terms here, but it's all part of the story that place has for us and that we have in place. This is one way of saying that place is active in our lives. It can be in terms of the places we identify with as much as the places we identify against. Similarly, we might identify with other places that are quite distant from us. So it's an interesting thing to start thinking about, is how we identify ourselves with places and against places. And when we're thinking about place itself, and place as being part of this idea of landscape, I guess the representation of place maybe we can think of as landscape. place itself has a range of different aspects when we start to think about it. These are some of the concepts I guess I wanted to go through today as I'm just unpacking this idea of writing place. There's the material aspects of place, the location, how the place that we're in is connected to other places and the importance of that, how it's located geographically on the Earth's surface and how that creates a very material place. Maybe because of its beauty it attracts people to it, because of the resources around it attracts people to it, because of its aridity it keeps people away, because of its location in relation to other areas in the world, New York, London, it becomes a different type of place and connects to other places materially in that way. And so there's a materiality to place that we have to, I think, take into account when we're thinking about place. And these material aspects have histories. And in this way, place is also a memory holder. The way that places are created and sculpted hold memories just in and of itself. That the way that we've written those places into being. So there's a whole lot of material aspects of place that if you like, we're born into and often have a separate from us, and that's quite a materialist way of looking at place. But we also know that place is also an experience. We feel things in places. That place tends to have that sense of an inside and an outside. It's somehow bounded, it's not limitless. That's what differentiates it from the idea of space. So place has a particular coherence and story to it, a narrative that runs through place. Some of that story is constructed for sure, but the experience of place is very much something that's subjective. For some people a place can be a totally alienating place. For others a specific place might be the place where they feel it most at home. And I guess the other thing about place is it varies in scale, and so here I am in quite a small, what I'd think of as a small enclosed place at the moment, but sometimes our places are larger, and you know, sometimes we think about Australia as a place. It's an enclosed place, it has an inside, it has an outside, it's narrated in particular ways, it's experienced in particular ways. So place varies in scale, and we can think about these scaled places almost like layers on an onion, or scales that are folded into each other. And of course there's places that are particularly important to us in some way or another, even if we identify against them. Places like our birthplaces, we have this saying about being born and bred, and this is a place-based way of identifying. Not that we're just born somewhere and so we have this inherited genetic code, but we're bred in a place. That place shapes us in some way, that we develop a moral code, we develop a way of being, a way of acting that comes through being bred in a place. And that was very much, I guess, some of the background to the reading that I've written some time ago, that's been included in the unit, called The Clearing, and I guess Lismore is a place where I've been born and bred, or I was born and bred. It's home in many ways, and so I guess when I used to play as a 11-year-old here in the paddocks around that are now Southern Cross University, I very much saw this as a natural environment. With my friends, we used to come down here to the creek and we'd catch little critters and do all sorts of things. We used to be keen amateur ornithologists and look at birds and all sorts of things. We used to map the creek. We started a little conservation society, a whole lot of things, and so in a way we learned about this place through being in it. We ran down the hills, and that's how we learned about the slope of the land. It wasn't calculated mathematically, it was an embodied experience here. And in thinking about this place as natural, I guess when I started doing some research into identity and place, it wasn't long before I started to understand the fact that in fact this place is far from natural. And so I was interested in how I came to think about this area that I'm in as a natural place. And so this idea of clearing was one that I started to play around with. The clearing is very much a part of the way that Eastern Australia has been shaped and colonised. It's clearing the land as a common story and often goes with pioneer narratives. As a concept, I first came across it in a book by Leela Gandhi called Post-Colonial Theory when I was reading to teach a unit called Borderlands for the first time, and this word clearing jumped out at me because it was being used in another way, that is a way of clearing the ground of our mind, of clearing a place where objects can appear and seem natural. And so I started to think about clearing as not just being a physical process that's related to making landscape and making place, but the way that our minds are also shaped, that there's a clearing is made for things to appear. And so here I'm thinking in particular of how this place that I'm in appeared to me as a natural place, not a made place, but a natural place. How did I come to have that sense of this place? Where did that narrative come from, that this was a natural place, a natural environment? And it doesn't take long before you can see patterns in most societies where colonisation has taken place, in the New World in particular. I've got some images here, one from a book that's by a US researcher back in 1976 by Edward Ralph called Place and Placelessness. And similarly, I guess there are images that we can see of clearing of the rainforest around the Northern Rivers area of New South Wales, and this is something that's happened up and down the coast. And in this area, I guess it was the clearing of the big scrub that was particularly important in the history of the colonial history of this region. So I started to think about these clearing practices, clearing in the physical environment, clearing in the mental environment, the way that settlers installed themselves and cleared a space both mentally and physically, and that's really what I wanted to start thinking about in the clearing. And this series of images forms part of it. Cleared landscapes are just something that you see around here all the time. But this series of 6 images is one that I guess when I started thinking about the clearing was very important to me. It was taken out at Corndale, a place to, I guess, the north and east of Lismore, and it just said something to me about this area and the mindset that I had that enabled me to see myself as a local of this place, a local of this natural place, naturally of this place, without seeing in a way the narrative of installation, of installing myself in this place. I wasn't born of the soil itself. My family history was one of migration, but that had been somehow or other erased, cleared from the stories in our family, and our stories were very much about being local. And so that's sort of something that I guess I was interested in understanding in this paper. Happy to answer any questions if you've got them. Happy to talk about these ideas further. I've probably been a little bit vague and obscure in places, but I hope that gives you some insight into what I was trying to convey through this piece of writing. Thanks for your time.